I've taken the time to draw up a diagram of the two outside legs and exactly how I want all these different half laps to line up so that I'll end up with a really strong leg configuration. I'm sure this is totally overkill. And then the center leg actually isn't going to touch the ground. It's actually going to hang from the bench, but will support some shelves and possibly a wood rack. Just a little bit narrower and won't go all the way to the ground. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is try to find the center of this board. Do it kind of by eye to start with. I'll leave a mark. I know that's kind of short. Do it on the other side. Of course, that's a little short as well, but it does give me a good idea of where the middle is now. So I'm going to start it right there. Okay, I intentionally have this blank here, which is the same thickness. That's going to allow me to practice and make sure that I get the exact height that I really need. So I'm going to be using my miter gauge here. So all I'm doing right now is just testing the depth to see how this really is going to turn out.
By cutting this board in half, I can determine if the half laps are the correct depth. This took several tries until I was satisfied the fit was correct. Now, using those same two boards, I'm going to extend the half lap farther so that I can line them up and truly see how perfect they fit. Once I've done that, it'll be time to go to the real stock and make those cuts. I've set the fence at 3 inches, which is the width of all of the lumber. Now that the test pieces fit perfectly, it's time to use the project lumber and get to work. I remove the ridges left by the dado blade by moving the board across the blade. Make sure it's held tightly to your miter gauge. Now it's just a matter of ramping up production and cutting all those half laps. The feet to the legs have half laps that interlock. So here I'm testing to see how they fit, and it's a little too snug, so I'm going to adjust the fence until it's perfect. These are my test pieces of wood. Once I have it perfect, then of course I'll go to the real stock and make all of those cuts.
I'm assembling the leg frames. Of course, I'm not gluing them up yet. I'm just making sure everything fits really nicely. But it's just a whole bunch of layers with lap joints. This other one's going to go on top of it, so it's going to end up being about 4.5 inches thick. Maybe it's a little bit more than that. Now, what I have to do right now is this board right here is kind of the key that's going to hold this legs nice and level and even up on the bench. So right now it's too wide because the hole in the bench was about 1.25 inches, and that's definitely more than 1.25 inches. So I need to put that in the slot and see how, well, actually I guess I should just measure off 1 1/8 inches or so. I don't want it to bottom out. I just want it to provide some strength side to side and keep it from being able to be knocked out of position. I still have the dado blade in my table saw, so I'm going to just go ahead and use the bandsaw to rip off this bottom. It doesn't need to be perfectly flat anyway, because it's just going to be, it's not even going to bottom out in that dado. Now that I have the depth, I need to notch out because the mortise is a little bit shorter than the board itself. So I'm just going to center this by eye. This does not need to be exact here. And I'm just going to kind of mark. And I'll even that distance out in a moment. And the next measurement is I need to measure down 3 inches so that it will line up with the legs.
The bandsaw is the best choice to cut out these notches. It certainly makes quick and easy work of it.
So now I'm going to take this and put it in, and it's looser than the mortise right now, but that was kind of partly the plan. By the way, I can slide it back and forth a little bit. That should be enough play for expansion and contraction. I have a little sliver that was taken off from the cut-offs, and I'm just going to wedge it in there. And now the neat thing. This is going to guarantee that my legs are nice and square. And in fact, they are. And this is not going anywhere. That's holding everything together nice and tight. Love it. And this is what it looks like before it's all glued up. But you can see it's just many, many layers which have been half lapped.
Before I glue this up, I need to drill some holes for some lag bolts which will go into the top, and I need to ease over the edges of the boards with the router. Thanks for watching.